Podcast coming to you live right here from Not Your Average Mark HQ. We're in the new place. Things are great. I am your host, Guapo. With me is coming from the comfort of Kenyon, Texas, Little Guapo, Billy Bros. What's up, boys?
What's up? What's up? We are in the Not Your Average Mark QH.
Of course.
Oh, y'all are in the QH. I'm in the HQ. It's a thing. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Want to welcome everybody here tonight. Already got the chat going on. J. Conrad Photography. What's up, Josh? Rick in the chat as well. What's going on? So, lots of announcements tonight. We're going to start by, of course, thanking those who helped take care of us. I want to thank Ross and the boys from Labor 12 for our intro and outro music. Track's called Head Rush. Album's called Monsters. Absolutely awesome. Every track on there. Now, Ross hit me up a little bit earlier, and some congratulations are in order. It would seem that Labor 12 has made it on to one hell of a show. Get this lineup. You've got Incubus, Third Eye Blind, Bad Flower, Blackstone Cherry, Paris Jackson, Lost Hearts, and the one and only Labor 12. That's going to be right here in Lubbock.
Lonely Train had to be, for a long time, was like one of my favorite songs. Blackstone Cherry.
Yeah.
Super
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that one and Rain Wizard.
Yep.
Well,
Y'all make
the
sure
boys from
y'all
Labor 12, what was that?
said y'all make sure you be there. I was
No, absolutely.
Tell them where to be.
Yeah, and if you want to be there for that, the boys from Labor 12 throwing out a little something for you. They're actually doing a raffle. If you go to labor12.com, starting tomorrow, that's laborxii.com, you can buy a $20 raffle ticket for 2 tickets to the show. This is $200 worth of tickets for $20. You cannot beat that, and this lineup is outstanding. So make sure you head to labor12.com. That's labor, LABORXII.com. Pick up your raffle tickets and go see one hell of a show.
Don't want to miss it. XII, not 12. Don't put 12.
Yeah, don't put 1, 2, because that ain't going to work. You got to put the
You gotta pay
XI.
$200.
Yep.
So we've got a lot going on. Of course, coming up really soon, July 22nd, we've got Squared Circle Pros, Headlocks, and Heat Waves. And I'm just going to run through this card. Man, this is going to be a good card. Of course, the big story right now. Before I get into that, what's up, Rooster? Glad to see you in the chat. He said he's watching a hell of a show right now.
Rooster.
Well, Rooster himself, man. Glad to see you in the chat tonight. Big story on Headlocks and Heat Waves is the return of Matthew Robles. Now, we talked a little bit last week about who he is. He actually tried to take over and run Squared Circle Pro, tried to take it right out from under Rick. And I'm guessing now that Rick stepped down, he's trying to step in and take it back away from TJ. So that's...
Man.
I'm sure that Rick's going to have something to say about all of that. We'll have to see what goes there. Brian Rage Rivera calling out the members of La Migra. That's going to be something to see. We've got our boy Camino in the chat right now. Camino, what's up, man? We've also got SOS with a debuting Olivier Vagos versus the Diamond Queen, Evelyn Carter, and a debuting Morgan Mercy. That's going to be a good match. We've had the chance to see the Diamond Queen a couple of times. SOS was at the last show. It's going to be good. We've got the Living Proof, Justin Taylor versus the Midnight Rider, Marquis Jackson. We've got Victoria Mosh versus the Rising Phoenix of Texas Nova Phoenix. Cesar Torres and Emilio Guzman in a Tate Fist match. That's going to be a good one. Our boy Emilio, man, he's had the gloves on for a minute, so you know he knows how to box.
Same, Camino. I have 4 and a not really honorable mention, but kind of just a sleeper. We'll get to that later, but
yeah, we're gonna get to that and got a little something to say about that. I'm going to go ahead and finish this card out. We've got Game Time, LC Mox, and the Big Vibe Dylan Scott with the Chili Boys. Chili Boys always get involved. Like the last time they got involved with LC Mox, There was a penguin that got folded like origami. It was crazy.
A what?
It's going to be like, I really hate that you guys missed that because like it was insane. Square Circle Pro Heck Yeah Radio IPPV Championship Gauntlet match. For those of you that don't know about gauntlet matches, you get pinned, you're out. Last man standing has the champion. You've got the Puerto Rican Pitbull Gino Rivera against the certified go-getter Darren Reeves versus Chris Watson versus our boy Jeff Bingham.
Yes,
Hold
sir. Wait a
This,
minute.
this guy won't be there, but Jeb will be there.
Jeb, I mean, I'm throwing it out there. I think Jeb can put it. Uh-oh, the mask has come on.
Yeah. We out here.
So I really think Jeb can take this one. I mean, Gino's had the title for a minute, but just watching him in the ring, Jeb's ready for this one. I can't wait to see how he does. We've got Squared Circle Pro Tag Team Title Texas Death Match. You got your champions Bloodlust versus Los Crudos. And I'm going to tell you right now, Texas Death Match is right up Bloodlust's alley. This is their kind of match.
Why did Camino get messages deleted?
That was our bot. That was not the guy.
Well, our bot needs to shut up.
Yeah.
Our bot needs to chill out.
I'll punch our bot.
And to Rooster, yes, La Migra is immigration in Spanish. And if you ever see it, you'll understand why they call themselves that.
Hey.
Bloodlust and Los Crudos, I'm really looking forward to see Bloodlust get in there and do what only Bloodlust can do.
Yeah, you better transition smoothly out of that.
We've got Square Circle Pro West Texas Women's Championship, Gypsy Mac versus Misty Marks. That's going to be a hell of a match in itself. Oh, we've got Jay Reb. Thank you so much for the subscription. I've got to stop here, and I got to tell you boys a little something about Jay Reb. Jay Reb is my boy Cameron. Me and Cameron was thick as thieves when we were in elementary school till he moved away. He's out in the wild and crazy world of California now, but he came across our little podcast, and as you can see, he's now here with us. So,
Well,
Cameron,
well,
glad to have you, brother.
People typically do. It's usually thick. It's usually California to Texas, so he's breaking the mold right now.
I'm saying.
Dummy, stupid thing.
But Cameron, seriously, bro, glad to have you here. Glad to have you in the chat. Can't wait to get you involved with the show.
Big dog.
Appreciate the subscription. You ain't got to watch all those ads like everyone else.
Yeah. Now you can
That's
watch
true.
us be hooligans.
Behind the
You get that
scenes.
subscription, you don't have to watch the ads.
So get on.
So we're gonna finish this out. We got the SCP Championship match. The last Maverick of West Texas, Ryan Justice, versus the Corn Belt Cowboy, the one called Manders. And then we've got two matches that were announced last week. We've got the triple threat match, the Defender of Truth, Gabriel Alexander versus JC Bravo versus a debuting TJ Slater.
Yes, sir.
The real deal right there. Real deal, Holyfield.
Absolutely the real deal. Then we also have a tag team grudge challenge. You got the Texas Terror Damon McCullough with Bam Bam Malone and Nolan Phillips versus the American Tragedy Phoenix and Aaron Harms. That's going to be, I mean, there's going to be cowbells involved. It's just going to get crazy.
I just can't wait to see old Damo back in the ring. It's gonna be nice.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Out of the injury.
Of course, for those of you that like a little bit of nostalgia and very pretty women, the Walking Riot Misty Hyatt at the show July 22nd. It's going to be a meet and greet situation going on from 4 to 5:30. Your chance to meet somebody who's been in ECW, been in WWF, been in WCW, been in NWA. This is your chance to meet her. So, you know, like my inner teenager is like doing backflips over this. It's crazy. Again, the meet and greet on that, 4 to 5:30, doors at 5:30, first bell's at 6. It's not something you're going to want to miss.
I'll say we're gonna be there.
Yeah.
Be there or be square, my dudes and dudettes.
Now that we've gotten through the card, we've been talking about the fact that we have a big announcement, and it's time to make that announcement. Your boys at Not Your Average Mark Wrestling Podcast, getting ready for Headlocks and Heat Waves, are going to do 5. That's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 times.
1 hour podcasts next week.
5 podcasts, ladies and gentlemen. You get to see all these ugly dudes and me for 5 days straight, hearing about what you should not be missing out on for July 22nd.
That's right. We're going to build it up Monday. We're going to have the one and only Paula Fate.
I'm gonna tell you.
Tuesday, Jet Bingham coming in. Wednesday, we have Bloodlust. Thursday, we've got Ryan Justice and the one called Manders head-to-head on the mic. That one's going to be insane. And then, of course, Friday, the one, the only Rick Elzy running down the show for us, running down the card.
For some of
That
y'all
starts,
some of y'all
that
that
starts
been
Monday
with us
next
for a
week.
little bit- Oh, dog. For some of y'all that have been with us for a little bit, you'll know that Ryan is not foreign to, going head to head with someone on our podcast. As a couple months ago, he had one with Jeb, the wild card Bingham. And so getting to see him again, if you remember that was an amazing little bout that they had. So it'll be great to see that again.
So I think that they really respected each other, and then they both together, the two of them, just like shat on Logan Paul.
Logan Paul.
Logan Knight.
He wishes, man. Look that guy out of here.
I was already
So-
on Raw. Sorry, guys.
Make sure you tune in next week, Monday through Friday, building up to that July 22nd Headlocks and Heat Waves, only at Jake's and only right here on Not Your Average Mark Wrestling Podcast.
Right
5
is
days.
here.
5 days. Tune in. All 5 of them.
5 days.
5
That,
5 days.
that brings us to the part of the show where we start running down the week that was in wrestling, and we're going to turn that over to you boys for SmackDown.
So SmackDown was basically the Bloodline show. Like, we joke about it usually, but this time literally the Bloodline segment, the trial of Roman Reigns, the tribal court was like 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was.
And then they came back at the end of the show. So literally like an hour of the 2-hour show was the Bloodline. But it's pretty crazy. You got, Guapo told me a while back that he thinks they're going to do an angle where Jimmy's going to get hurt and Jay's going to challenge him for the title. And it wasn't the exact scenario, but, in a roundabout way, it did happen. They beat down on.
I can't be 100% right all the time. That's just not fair.
Say they beat down on Solo and Roman beat down on the Usos. They both had to go to the hospital at the end of the night. Jay came back, beat down on Solo. I mean, I think he gave Solo 8, 9 chair shots to the back. I mean, he went
He was going in.
crazy, and then held the title up in the middle of the ring and said at SummerSlam, "It's trial by combat, Us." And so set up SummerSlam match. That was rude. Disrespectful.
It's fine, man.
But so that was pretty much SmackDown. I mean, you had Io Sky tease a cash in whenever Asuka, Bianca, and Charlotte did their thing, but
Obviously, she's going to hold on.
yeah, of course it didn't have. Well, no, she was fixing to cash in, but then Bailey got how Charlotte Flair does the things she does in the ring, wearing 6-inch heels.
Yeah.
Amazes me. It's wild. But yeah, that was pretty much SmackDown in a nutshell. Raw was really good. Started Raw off with Finn Balor in the ring.
Which, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, well, he was ready.
Especially after they,
Yeah, he was ready. He said, "Damien, come on.
Yep.
We got to talk about this." And Rhea and Dom come out, tell him, "Nah, this can't happen here. Let's talk about it back there." And then they do talk about it. And Damien's like, "Yeah, Finn, you can have Seth. Like, take him. You have unfinished business. But if you don't finish it, we're all right.
Boom.
We're all right either way, and holds up the briefcase. I don't know how Finn took that, but
Not
Me
well.
personally, I'm not.
my favorite part of the night was the Ricochet Logan Paul
Oh, dude,
promo.
dude.
Ricochet got I mean he did the cool flip out of there, but Logan Paul schooled him on the microphone. It was crazy. Like it looked like Logan Paul, it kind of reminisced John Cena and Roman Reigns. Like it's like he was like stumbling on words and Logan Paul was just going in on him. I was like, what is happening?
Which, I mean, for a dude that's been a YouTuber and for like forever, and then has had his podcast for years, like that's good to see that his mic skills carried over to WWE.
Yeah, it was cool because he told Ricochet all Ricochet's doing is chasing the moment.
Yeah,
Ricochet ran and did the flip out of the ring, and Logan Paul was just like, "That was so cool."
For TikTok.
yeah. Like, oh my god, that's like everyone's art. Like that's my favorite thing about that was do not like Logan Paul as a person. I don't think anybody does, but I love him as a wrestler, and I know my mom at least is not a very big fan of him, and old Guapo over there is not a big fan of him. So me seeing that when that's like a big thing for people is they're like, oh well, he's just a TikTok guy. Like he's here for the hype. He's not really here like to be a wrestler. Seeing him use that on Ricochet, I was like,
Yeah,
there it is.
And Bruce is not wrong. I am not a fan of Logan Paul, but I've got to give the man credit where credit was due. He absolutely schooled Ricochet on the mic.
I say he was made for this. Well, what he's doing right now, he was made for that. What's up, Mike?
What's going on, Mike? Glad to see you in the chat tonight.
Yeah, but no, he was made for that. Like what he's doing right now is a very good situation for Logan Paul. But then you set up some more. You had Maxine Dupree graduate into the Alpha Academy, and the Viking Raiders came and stole her Letterman. How rude!
How rude.
Cheers.
And then you had the main of
Oh,
the main event was Judgment Day versus Seth Rollins and two mystery opponents who have been the two mystery opponents for every match that has happened since WrestleMania. Can you tell me?
well, you just told them. It's not that.
It's
The Bushwhackers.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Gosh, you're good. No, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Of course.
Because
So
we haven't been doing nothing.
every time somebody needs some, like, hey, it's 3v1. Who do you think they're calling? But the match, surprisingly, was not very good.
Yeah.
It was full of there was a lot of botches, a lot of just clunky looking deal. I don't know. It wasn't a very good match. I saw reports that there was like almost a fight backstage, but
So what I was thinking when we saw that match was I was talking to him about it. I was like, I think because Sami Zayn, at least for me, has kind of been at that level already. But seeing that from Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens was much less I was like, all right, hold on, what is going on? So what I figured at least is that with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens kind of having their not really doing much spell, like they know that already because they've probably talked to them about it since they're champions, that they've kind of just backed off the gas, and that 2 out of the 6, not really bringing any energy, it kind of died down from the other sides is what I was kind of getting from that, because that's just not something that you see from any of them.
yeah, well, what's crazy is you would think I would have been if it was Dom that was having all these botches kind of. It's like, all right, Dom's not one of those guys.
Yeah.
But it was Fit was messing up. And I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, you can't. That's why I'm thinking it has to be just a lack of energy or something, or maybe there's something going on with the creative direction for Finn. But that was my thing. Seeing the Judgment Day, how they were, I feel like there had to be some outside something.
Yeah.
because they've never put up a bad match like that.
Well, apparently there was some tensions brewing backstage.
Yeah.
Nobody in the ring was happy with the quality of that match. That's what I read, at least. But all in all, Raw and SmackDown were pretty solid. Everybody was complaining about the Bloodline thing going so long, but it was also the highest rated SmackDown in years.
Yeah.
So, kind of all right.
As far as Raw goes, of course, you got a visit from the man himself, Drew McIntyre.
Oh
Yeah.
yep. They're about to probably kick my dude. What's his name? Giovanni Vinci or whatever. Probably finna kick him out of Imperium. They got the only thing I don't like with the whole creatives right now that they're teasing 3 different faction breakups.
Yeah, I know.
I like slow it down. Let's just do one at a time here.
Yeah.
But
So let's throw some grades out there.
I'm gonna give SmackDown an A+ because one thing I left off that was absolutely awesome. Edge and Grayson Waller had a match and it was a freaking banger.
He said something about that when we watched Grayson Waller, like him and John Cena. He said something about like possibilities for matches. I said it'd be a perfect thing to be like with Edge. It's really cool to see that happen.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
But yeah, so that was really good. So SmackDown was an A+ show for me. You?
SmackDown, I gotta give just an A because I kind of agree with. While it was worth it, the bloodline thing going so long, it just for what it could be, it wasn't an A+, but not at all bad.
You know,
it was definitely a great one.
The show would have been S tier for me had the whole LA Knight spot that got 2 million views on YouTube and all that had been on the show and not the dark.
Yeah, not dark. That was crazy.
Oh, looking over at the chat, Camino says that he heard Stone Cold may confront Grayson Waller.
All right, hot take here. I think Grayson Waller is going to do more already than Austin Theory has. And I think, like, Grayson Waller losing to Edge, he did more for himself in that match than Austin Theory did winning against John Cena at WrestleMania.
Facts. Wow.
I agree with
No. And I'm a fan of Austin Theory. I like Austin Theory, but
Now, my thing is, you're messing up because this was when we talked about it. This was my prediction for Grayson Waller was to give Austin Theory an opponent who kind of already has some history, who's shown, but he's also hurt. So it's kind of so.
I don't know if you were going to give Austin Theory, and we kind of talked about this last week. If you're going to give Austin Theory an opponent that would be worthy of taking him on for his title, I mean, I've got one word for that, and it's yeah.
oh yeah.
But we need Austin Theory to be relevant. So I think that's why we give him a match with Grayson Waller.
I don't know.
See, I'd rather see Theory drop the title to LA Knight, and LA Knight and Grayson go at it.
Yeah, that would be neat.
Something that we said that we both kind of agreed on when we talked about it was we do Grayson Waller and LA Knight first so that we can bring Austin Theory back into relevancy. Which I know goes against what I was saying about Grayson Waller. That's just because every time I think of the smart thing to do with LA Knight, they do something completely different. So
Facts. I saw
Unfortunately,
something today that compared LA Knight right now to Rusev during his whole Rusev Day thing when he was so over and WWE just did nothing with him.
and what happened to Rusev?
Yeah.
and what has he been saying is going to happen to LA Knight?
I'm telling you, and I stick beside it to this day. If they don't do something big with LA Knight, and I mean soon, when his contract expires at the end of the year, LA Knight is all elite.
Yep. I can see it. I hope they do something. LA Knight he's fun to watch. He's fun to watch. But I can only give I guess I want your Smack. We'll get your SmackDown rating.
SmackDown for me, I've got to go A as well. I'm good with the bloodline. Best storytelling ever. Absolutely love it. But I needed a little bit more of everybody else. You know, I want to see some LA Knight. I want to see Tez do something. You
Yeah.
know, there's some wrestlers we need to give a little more time.
Like
And I
Bobby
get we
Lashley.
need to build that storyline, but there's more people I'd like to see start getting pushes.
I actually looked up today, like what is going on with Bobby Lashley and why he hasn't been on since the World Heavyweight Championship, since he lost to AJ Styles.
Mhm.
And apparently they are trying to reimagine re-image his gimmick. So he wrestled a house show like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. So he's able to wrestle. Apparently he was backstage Friday. He just didn't do anything. But you know who also has not been on TV since the whole World Heavyweight thing? Omos, an MVP.
Bash.
So could we
Yeah.
be seeing a possible Hurt Business?
Man, I hope so. With so much talk of breaking up factions, I sure would like to see that one come in.
Yeah.
So Camino, well, I had to stop and say something about what Triple H said. Where we're at about LA Knight going all elite is more, you know, Triple H said it'll come to those who wait, but LA Knight is in control of whether he says yes to the contract or not. So and I know if LA Knight talks to Tony Khan, I mean, he's like, boom, come, you're done, good. We'll talk about contracts later. You're in. Like, he's not going to turn LA Knight down. So, you know, Triple H saying he'll come to those who wait. You know, that's what he said about other people, and we saw where that's gone. So,
And
I
Mike,
think that if they wait too long, that even if they do something, that they're gone.
and Mike brings up a good point in the chat as well. If he does go to AEW, does he bring back the dummy gimmick? And for those that may not know, the dummy gimmick, he had a button. Every time something happened, he'd hit the button and go, dummy, yeah. So I kind of hope he would bring that back because that was comedy gold. I really dug that. So I kind of hope he would bring it back.
Will he go back to Eli Drake too? Probably.
Probably.
I mean, probably.
He probably can't be LA Knight, but
Drake.
then we'll
It's
find out. We'll find out. next
Eli
year.
Drake. It just doesn't have the same effect.
Well, that's why. Yeah, we'll find out next year.
Hopefully we won't, because he'll get a push at SummerSlam or something.
Yeah.
Something.
Well, my Raw grade can't give it higher than a B.
Yeah, I'm 100% on there with you.
I'm right there with you. Can't go really above a B on that.
Now,
What kind of gang signs are you over there throwing, dude?
I'm trying
never mind.
to make it a B, but I can't. There we go. It's a B. Look at that.
All right, so that brings us into last night's Dynamite. It was a decent show. You had Commander and Chris Jericho. Of course, Jericho wins the match, but anytime you can see Commander in the ring, it's a good time. That dude is such a high flyer.
He does this crazy, like, walk the top of the rope, jump to the outside of the second rope, jump to the inside of the second rope, all in
Crazy.
like that's just insane to me. How does he not break a leg or his huevos?
Granted, this is like fantasy booking, but could you imagine Commander versus Ricochet?
That'd be crazy. That'd be
That
ridiculous.
would be insane.
Oh, B.
That match was everything you thought it was going to be. Jericho ends up getting the W on that, but what I'm noticing here is I really think just by the way he's acting, some of the things that are doing, we're on the verge of a face turn for Chris Jericho.
No,
Like, I think he's going to go back to a baby face. And I mean, how many times has he done it before? I mean,
Yeah.
he's always evolving his character, and he's been El Campeon and Ocho and all that. He's been a heel the entire time he's been in AEW. So it's about time for a face turn.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. And Jericho will thrive in whatever position you put him in because that's just who Chris Jericho is.
It is.
But I definitely think heel Jericho is better than babyface Jericho.
Well, after that, you get Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin versus Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia. Now, here's the thing. Talking about face turns, So Sammy Guevara is out doing his own thing. Like he's pretty much, from everything I can tell, he's done with the Jericho Appreciation Society, but he's still got to be with Daniel Garcia in this one last match. And this is a blind eliminator tag tournament match. So it's a decent match. They're going back and forth, but Darby Allin and Swerve Strickland has kind of had this thing going on for a little while. Swerve Strickland interferes, costs Darby the match. So Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin lose. Sammy Guevara, Daniel Garcia get the win, but Sammy Guevara goes over to Darby Allin, and if you've watched the show, you know the Four Pillars don't like each other. Sammy Guevara goes out and offers a handshake to Darby Allin. So, I mean, I think Sammy's going full on face turn.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question about it.
I think Jericho Guevara feud would be good at this very moment.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
You got what has to be one of the craziest tag teams in AEW right now with Adam Cole and MJF.
it is the funniest thing in wrestling since Sami Zayn and the Bloodline. Like, it is so funny. Did you
y'all-
see the
yeah.
vignette that they played yesterday before the
Say that
match?
again?
Did you see the vignette they played before the match, the video?
Oh, I missed it.
Oh, man, it was so funny. They were in a bar.
It
And
was like a commercial for their AEW video game.
yeah, say
It
he
was so funny.
MJF asked him, he's like, "Where's your shirt at?" He's like, "I lost it, Max. I'm honest. Being honest with you, I lost the shirt." And
Still talking about that I'm better than you, baby shirt?
Yeah. And Max was just like, "Oh man, no you didn't, no you didn't." So he goes off with some girls and comes back. He's like, "All right, I have the shirt, but the only way I'm going to wear it is if we do what I want to do next." And they go play the AEW's video game.
It was so funny because they're playing it, and MJF's sitting there. He's like, I can't believe I'm playing video games like a weebo nerd geek." And then they were I cut a little bit to where they were almost done, and he was like, "Man, it's actually pretty fun when you're playing with people." And he's like, "You never played a multiplayer game before?" And he was just like,
You got to have friends for that.
and they just sat there, and the camera was just on them. They were just sitting there. I was like, it was so funny.
So looking over at the chat, we've got Mike touching back on the Jericho thing. He was a babyface when he was for the last bit of the Inner Circle, and that's true. I had forgotten about that. I appreciate you bringing that up, Mike. But as far as MJF and Adam Cole, Mike says his opinion is it's a bad thing because it's hurting MJF's heat.
And I agree, but I think it's only momentary because they're going to make it to face FTR, and MJF is going to punch Adam Cole in the face with his big old ring or something.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen, and instantly all that, he's going to have all that heat back. But
So we had Adam Cole and MJF going against Big Bill and Brian Cage. Big Bill, that dude is freaking jacked.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because MJF goes in there and he's MJF. He's gonna do his thing. He's gonna body slam Big Bill, except for the fact that he's not. He does it and he starts acting like his back is hurt, and you hear him yell out to the crowd, "Mother of God!" It was a funny thing.
and
But,
the loudest pop of the night was when he finally delivered the body slam.
True. They played that to a T too. And that's one thing about it.
Cribs couldn't agree.
Well, they're going against Big Bill and Brian Cage. Back and forth match. The a lot of comedy in that match, and there always is. You put MJF and Adam Cole together, but Cole finally hits Cage with the boom, gets the win. From there, you move on to Sky Blue and Roby Soho. They're of course in the Owen Hart Women's Memorial Tournament semifinals. Big things at stake here. It's Sky Blue back and forth with Ruby Soho. The crowd in this one was the big thing. They weren't so much as behind Sky Blue like they are in the States because they were in Canada. They weren't so much as the fact they were behind Sky Blue as they were totally and completely anti-Outcast. They had absolutely nothing for Ruby Soho. And the biggest pop of that match came when the ref sent Tony Storm and Soraya back to the back.
They're out of here.
They're so empty. Yeah, that was a good one.
Do y'all remember? Yeah, so do y'all remember when John Cena was the referee for Wade? I think it was like Wade Barrett, and Randy Orton, or something, or maybe it was CM Punk. It was CM Punk's new Nexus versus somebody else, and John Cena, like, he would stop, they would start to fight, and he'd stop him, and he'd point to somebody at the side of the ring. He threw, like, just would stop the match like 6 times just to throw somebody out. So funny.
So, John Cena's just a funny dude. That guy
I
right
will-
there in the background.
I will say, once you get past all of the heat from the crowd and they don't like the Outcast, all that, when it gets to the actual end of the match, Soho got a clean win. She worked the knee, worked the leg, got the clean win over Sky Blue. And that's something you don't see very often, because usually it's the Outcast doing everything together. So it was cool to see. Y'all stop. It was cool to see Ruby Soho get a win.
Yeah.
You had Swerve Strickland and Nick Wayne. And,
The wrestling prodigy. You got to introduce him.
oh, I'm sorry. Swerve Strickland and the Wrestling Prodigy.
Thank
Nick
you.
Wayne.
Yeah. Debuting wrestling prodigy Nick Wayne. All right.
It was I'm not gonna lie, it was a good match. You know, I like what I saw. The biggest thing out of that match was probably Darby Allin watching in the back
For sure.
and getting to watch Nick Wayne's shoulder get completely separated, and then Strickland hit the JML driver to get the win. It was ugly.
Separated shoulder? I didn't.
Yeah, he separated his shoulder.
Oh. Well, what a debut, huh?
Yeah. Holy moly. He's not with it.
I didn't see that part.
Now, the big part of this, like the big thing in the show, is the Elite and the BCC announcing their 5th members for Blood and Guts. And, you know, Kenny Omega comes out and he starts getting beat up because he's going out there to confront Don Callis, who's not his favorite person anymore.
Yeah.
But Kota Ibushi comes out as the Elite's 5th member, and you want to talk about a pop.
Yeah.
Ibushi came out and the place went nuts. So I was happy to see that, and I'm thinking, okay, we've got Kota now. What can the Blackpool Combat Club pull together to go against that? And they bring Pac.
Yeah.
And I hear him say, "It's Pac," and I'm like, "Pac?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Neville?"
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that was a crazy one for me because that was like my generation wrestling. Like when he came out with back when Daniel Bryan was in and the Shield was in. Seeing old Neville.
So he's been overseas. He's been, because what champion is he? What's the title called? I don't even remember what it's called.
I don't even remember.
But he's like been going around all across the country, defending it to other promotions and stuff.
I do.
Well, and it's good to see him back. I mean, he kind of like Bruce was saying, when he was in WWE as Neville, he was one of my favorites. Like, he would do the craziest things. So I'm glad to see him back on TV. That ended the show. All in all, I mean, it's a strong B show. There wasn't enough there to give it an A for me, but I'll give it a strong B.
Yeah, I can go with that. I can go with a B.
I'd say B plus because I gave Raw a B and I don't think it was as bad as Raw.
That's fair. You know what? I will
That
go
is
to
fair.
a B plus because you said that. That is correct. It was not as bad as Raw.
That's
did
fair. Okay, it's a full bump up to a B plus then.
Yeah. Did you see that there was like serious discussions of CM Punk being the 5th member for the BCC? And,
I did see that.
And the only Kenny Omega was open to it. The only people who weren't open to it were the Young Bucks. So
They should have.
they should have done it. I mean,
Yeah.
could you imagine that match would have been crazy?
That would have been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get a bunch of people to tune in just for the fact that Oh man, it's the elite CM Punk again. Like the
Yeah.
BCC, but that is a problem too because at the same at that point the BCC is irrelevant. It's like it's not the BCC versus the elite anymore. It's CM Punk versus the elite now.
And then there's
And,
dudes.
yeah, I was gonna say so.
It's CM Punk and them other guys.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, AEW is pretty solid. I do want to talk about one more thing too.
Go ahead.
I don't watch a whole lot of Collision since it's came out. I watched the debut episode and then I just kind of keep up with a little bit. The Samoa Joe CM Punk match, it was great. It was awesome.
W, man.
It was so good. Obviously it's not as good as the matches they had 15 years ago in Ring of Honor, being that they're 20-year veterans now.
That was 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'd say it was still so good. And CM Punk finally broke the 20-year curse and finally got a win over Samoa Joe. And he thought they were about to shake it out in the middle of the ring, and Samoa Joe puts him in the Camino clutch, and so we may get a full-fledged Samoa Joe CM Punk feud, and that's exciting.
Man, I hope so. I really do.
That is one of the for people who didn't watch TNA, they wouldn't really know. But Samoa Joe has got to be one of the best mic men I've ever seen. Like that dude, he is so good on the mic. It's crazy, and not a lot of people know it because he didn't really get a lot of opportunity in WWE. So you really had to watch Impact or TNA to see it, and it was so good.
One of my favorite mic moments from him actually came from WWE when he walks out and, he throws it out, like starts with Randy Orton and then goes to Jeff Hardy and is just going around the ring telling everybody.
Oh, man. I think the craziest thing was whenever he was in the ring with Brock Lesnar. And
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar went to say something to Roman Reigns, and he was just like, "You look me in the face when I'm talking to you, or we can handle this right here." I was like, okay, first off, nobody talks to Brock Lesnar like that.
Except Samoa Joe.
Yeah. I was never really big into Samoa Joe. Like, I never really, like you said, I never really watched TNA, so I never really got to see him. And so I saw some clips from this guy after he told me about the match, because then I looked at the match with him and CM Punk, and man, really not capping like that. The Brock Lesnar moment was my favorite one. I was literally had the exact same reaction as you. I was like, no one talks to Brock Lesnar like that, except for Samoa Joe.
And you tell he really it was like real heat. He got under Brock's skin. I mean, Brock.
Oh, yeah.
Slammed his head into his. Oh, it was.
I think one of my favorite things of his was when he was talking to Jeff Hardy. Tells Jeff, why don't we pretend we're in AA and you keep your mouth shut while I'm sharing with the group?
Yeah. Yeah. No.
I was like, dang.
Yeah.
That's rough.
He's so good. I'm excited for it. But yeah,
It's
I just
gonna be
wanted to
good.
touch on that because that was a pretty big thing on Saturday too.
So we've got a discussion point tonight that we're going to go into. But before we do, first off, thank you to everybody who's joining us tonight, everybody that's watching, everybody that's listening,
Chat,
everybody that's in the chat. And this is what I want from the chat. When we bring up what our topic is, I want to hear from you in the chat about what your is here. But I want to give a special shout out on this to our boy Camino Lee. It's HYR Camino in the chat. A few weeks ago, he put out a question on social media and said, there's all these people in the Hall of Fame, but if you could take a match, if you could have a category in the Hall of Fame for matches, what would your match be? And that really struck a chord with me. So, Camino, brother, appreciate you letting us use this topic, and that's what our topic's going to be today. And don't worry, we're going to go through and you get
we'll
a chance to
throw
work
it.
that out.
Yeah,
But
we'll address them. Don't worry about that, brother.
That's what our discussion is going to be about tonight. And I want to hear from the chat as well as from you guys over what matches it is. And with your permission, I'm going to go ahead and start it.
Go for it. Let's hear
For
it.
me, my top of the list, number one match that has to be a Hall of Fame match, Randy Savage versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, WrestleMania 3. When you can take a match like that and people will disagree with me, but it stole part of the show from the Andre Hulk Hogan match.
Well, I think Camino would disagree with you because he had that match on his list. So
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I mean that was a great match, but I've got to say the Randy Savage Ricky the Dragon Steamboat match, absolute Hall of Fame caliber. And if any of you have gotten the opportunity to watch the Randy Savage documentary that's come out recently, he had notepads. Number 1, number 2, this is what happens at 3, this is what happens at 4. And they would quiz each other because they knew that Andre and Hogan were the main event and they had to do something to be at that caliber. And the match was exactly that. It was insanity in the middle of the ring. And that's why it's my top choice for Hall of Fame.
I respect it. I respect it.
I'll go next. W Hall of Fame take, I'll be honest.
I'll say we didn't experience that. So of course you'll see our list is a little more modern.
Especially mine.
Yeah, especially his.
Like literally, like. But my number 1 match, which is one that we all 3 had before we talked about this. So, but I was the one that got to take it because I'm me. I gotta say TLC 2, WrestleMania 17, Edge and Christian, Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys. I mean, you're gonna hear my number 2 and you're gonna be like, what? Because I mean, crazy. But that match has got to be my number 1 because before I got into wrestling, I literally just had that little case I've been talking about of Jeff Hardy matches. And man, that was the only thing I could watch was on-demand wrestling like that. And I would not have gotten into wrestling if that match didn't exist because just all of the antics with the high flying, with the ladders and the tables, with the both teams going like it's not a tag team, it was all of them in the ring, just all of them having team moves, getting hit with team moves. It was what wrestling is for me. Besides mic work, which I didn't know about till about 3 years ago, that was wrestling for me.
And you add to that one of the most iconic moments in all of sports, or all of wrestling, with the spear hanging off the titles.
Yeah.
That is one of the most iconic. You could show somebody who doesn't know anything about wrestling, there's like a 70% chance, oh hey, I've seen that before. You know what I mean?
And
Like
100% chance they're gonna be like, holy crap.
yeah, and all 3 of those tag teams went on to become 3 of the best tag teams in the history. Majority of that group had very good singles runs, and based off of them coming together and making that match, TLC 1 and then TLC 2, that TLC 1 was amazing, and then they just one-upped everything in TLC 2. It's crazy.
The difference between TLC 1 and TLC 2 that TLC 2 didn't one-up was the fact that it was the first TLC, and how big of a push it gave TLC itself, because it wouldn't exist without that match. And all 3 of those tag teams, like it put them in the limelight so that they could do what happened. Other than that, the TLC 2 was like just somehow did better in every aspect.
Well, and not only that, those 3 teams and the build up to TLC 1 and TLC 2 set the bar for tag team divisions in all aspects of wrestling.
And I would say that it still exists today, but it's definitely been diminished from what it was. And people, at least like me, when they see tag team matches, they still have that in the back of their mind. They're like, what I'm watching is nice, but what it could be back here, what I've seen, what the peak of tag teams, it gets kind of sad sometimes.
Agreed.
So that's my number 1.
All right, my number 1, the top Hall of Fame match. Like I said, it's going to be more modern, but I do know some things about wrestling before I was born. My number 1 match is Bret Hart versus Steve Austin, Survivor Series 96.
The Crimson Mask.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's 2 at the time, pre-broken neck,
Dude.
Steve Austin was one of the most technical wrestlers you could see. I mean, him and Bret Hart in the ring together, it was so great. You have one of the very few perfectly executed double turns with Bret Hart going heel and Steve Austin going babyface. One of the most iconic pictures, and it
like
could
literally
be
I think it is.
of Steve Austin in the sharpshooter with the blood coming down his face.
I've seen that everywhere.
Yeah,
Everywhere.
and without that, does Steve Austin, that really, set him on course for his meteoric rise. And I think if that match had not happened, WWE, Austin would have never reached the heights he did, and WWE probably wouldn't be here today because WCW would have won the Monday Night Wars. That was the dawn of the Attitude Era, I think.
Wow, what
So-
a name.
Camino, I'm going to have you throw your list out there again, and instead of giving my number 2, we're going to jump that over to Bruss because Cameron J-Red out in the chat has brought up one that is in all 3 of our lists, but we're going to let Bruss talk about it.
Yeah, I also got to take it because when we first came up with the idea, while they were still talking about, what it was, I was like, well, you can't go anywhere without Undertaker and Mick Foley for King of the Ring. And which, again, is why I said y'all are probably going to freak out when I tell you my number 2 because that's at number 2 for me. But, I mean, really for all the same reasons why I said number 1 is it is wrestling. It is what WWE sports entertainment Attitude Era was. It was crazy match quality in the ring. It was crazy antics outside the ring. It was holy freaking crap. Did he just choke slam him through a ring for the freaking Hell in a Cell? Like, dude, my whole thing is at every part, at every aspect of that match, the tension you felt, the crazy back when we had those goated announcers, the things that Mankind would do, because I mean it's Mankind. It was He said Taker thought he was dead. So did JR.
So did JR. As a matter of fact, I remember JR straight up in the announcing going, "He's killed him! He's killed Mick Foley!"
And not only that, all of this was done the whole time. Taker had a broken foot.
Yes.
His foot was broken.
Yeah. Well, and
it was just. Go ahead.
to give the magnitude of this match, it made your list, it made his list, it made my list, it made J-Reb's list, it made Camino's list,
It made the guys list.
it made the guys' list. Like this whole, anybody that thinks about wrestling from that era, the first thing that comes to mind is King of the Ring, Hell in a Cell, Taker and Foley.
So what he said about the Crimson Mask picture of Bret Hart and Stone Cold, I do agree is the most famous picture ever. But the most famous video from WWE has to be Undertaker choke slamming him through the cage. Like everybody outside of wrestling has seen that.
Well, and
I think number 1 is him throwing him off.
Dude,
That's number 1.
well, and Mick Foley will tell you, he said it in several different interviews that they knew they were going to do that. So he throws him off the table. He didn't want to do it. Mick's like, "Throw me off the damn table." So
Yeah.
he throws him off the cage through the table, but going through the ring and hitting the mat, that hurt worse. That hurt Mick worse than going off the top of the cell.
And that's what no one knew but Vince, Taker, and Mick Foley that was happening. And they told him, he was like, "If I can, I'm going to get back up there." And of course, he got back up there. And
Taker, that was the crazy part, is after looking into it, Taker,
he's in flow, he's 40 feet up in the air because they had to pull the cell up to get Foley out.
Well,
And
and
he's halfway down, and Mick Foley starts climbing up, so now he's got to climb back up.
yeah.
That's
Taker was not trying to do what Mick Foley was asking him to do. Like that's how crazy that match was. And someone like the 21-1 Undertaker said, "I'm not really about all that."
well, and Cameron and Camino both talking about the thumbtacks that he landed on and just the chills you get from thinking about those thumbtacks. You were talking about the Crimson Mask and how that's one of the most recognized pictures. For me, one of the most recognized pictures was Mick Foley with his arm like that up on the cage, his head leaned back like that, and a tooth hanging out his nose.
Yeah, that's what. They just came out with the documentary. Taker and Mick Foley sitting down together talking about it, and Taker was talking about it. He's like, "Do you remember what you said to me? What you kept saying to me and the ref while we were like saying we need to get to the end. All he kept saying was, we got to get to the tax. We got to get to the tax."
Oh man, for me with that match, I mean, in my personal list, it's not my number one just because of how shell shocking. I wouldn't even be at this podcast. I'd be sitting over there playing freaking Apex if I didn't see that match, because that's what got me to wrestling. But if WWE themselves came out for a match Hall of Fame, I think that would be number one, me personally.
Oh, absolutely. In a word, that match was iconic.
Literally.
And Camino says in the chat, it was a turning point for wrestling in general.
Yep. That's another one of those moments that someone would be like, I don't watch wrestling. And you play that and they'll be like, oh, hey, I did see that though.
Exactly.
Because it's one of those, one of the first things anybody shows anybody when it comes to wrestling.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that. And he may get mad at me for saying something about this, but Cameron, J-Reb in the chat, one of the things he told me when we talked a little bit earlier was that he hasn't watched wrestling since late 90s, early 2000s. But that is the power of something like this, of bringing up the old stuff, of bringing up the new stuff. We've got him excited about seeing what's going on in wrestling again through our podcast and being able to talk about it. So, it's cool for us as Not Your Average Mark podcasters to be able to provide that for people. So
Appreciate that, man.
we do. We appreciate your excitement in this, and we hope you're here every time, man.
Yes, sir, Camino. That man is spitting facts out there in the chat right now.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, 100%.
So that brings us back to Guapo for number 2.
My number 2 match is taking it back a little bit. Is WrestleMania 10. Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon in the first ever ladder match.
That's fair.
That match changed.
The Hall of Fame without Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. 100%.
That match changed everything. I mean, there hadn't been a ladder match before. Of course, you've got your biggest face in Shawn Michaels, your biggest heel in Razor Ramon, and add the ladder in there, and now you've got this whole new thing. And so it was not as much a turning. It wasn't quite the turning point that the Hell in a Cell match was, but it was another point in time that changed everying.
It just elevated the sport entertainment.
Yeah,
so
it was
much.
kind of the transition from Hulkamania, brother, the superhero like era to like.
How'd it go again?
You got it. You do it.
What?
Do it.
What?
Hulkamania, brother.
Hulkamania, brother.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, brother.
Yeah, it went from that like cartoonish style. That was like kind of the transition from the cartoonish comic book style to, legitimate like wrestling. Like, I don't know. You put a ladder into the mix and it's like, hey, this is more than just a leg drop. That dude just jumped off a ladder. That might actually hurt him. You know
Well,
what I
I
mean?
mean, that's that. It was bumps that people had never seen before. Camino's got it down. He knows how to make that Hogan voice.
I agree. That is, and the match was for the IC title, correct?
Yeah, it was an IC title match.
Yeah, I mean it.
And that also helped. It was them going all out, taking bumps we've never seen for a title, which is now the same thing that we have,
Yeah.
as opposed to, oh, it's these little matches with Hulkamania brother and I got the title. Like,
Yeah,
Well, and I like what you said about the fact that it was a turning point from the cartoony good guy, bad guy dynamic to we're going to fight. It's going to be a fight, and it's more realistic. And without this match, you don't get your first match, Russ. Without this match, there is no TLC match.
bingo,
Right about
100%. Yeah, no, I agree, 100%.
you don't have a lot of that match.
Yeah,
Okay,
It was a-
Cameron's not mistaken there. He didn't have a match against Razor Ramon. Shawn Michaels had a match against the latter.
And Jay Conrad photo, just like Camino, just spitting facts out there in the chat that yes, wrestling growing up for me, for him, for Guapo, for the guy, for you is all just, it was so great, man. We really miss those times. That's why we're coming back and talking about all these great times with
yeah.
number 2.
I'll go to my number 2 technically was TLC 2, but we already talked about that one. So I'm gonna move on to Remote Trace, which is, it could be, now we're moving to more matches that I've, watched in real time. And I'm going with Taker and Shawn at WrestleMania 26.
Okay.
I do think WrestleMania 25 was the better wrestling match. But I think the build up, it was still a great wrestling match in 6. But the build up to the match, Shawn trying to win the Royal Rumble because Taker was the champ. He wanted that rematch so badly and costing Taker an Elimination Chamber. Everything he did to get to that point, putting his career on the line. It was just such a great, you have 2 of the best performers. No, pretty sure 27 and 28 was Triple H. 25.
Yeah, that's.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure 24 and 25 were Michaels, and then 26 and 27, or no, 27 and 28 were.
Yeah, I'd say 27 and 28 are Triple H, and 25 and 26 are.
I actually have that on my list.
Yeah, that's what I say. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. But either way, the second match, the retirement match, is what I'm. You got 2 of the best performers to ever grace a wrestling ring, and they absolutely just stole the show. I mean, what?
They did.
And that's what more can you the emotion in the match, the
That was such
pure
a big-
wrestling in the match. I mean,
The emotion that
beat
they
it.
brought, that's why I do agree with you putting 26 instead of 25, because just the actual emotion level, because when I watched that match was kind of when I was a little more inversed with wrestling. I kind of understood it a little bit because you've been watching it a lot. He's obviously been watching it a lot. Y'all kind of been talking to me about it. So when I saw that match, I was just like, hey, look, he had all this buildup, and it just like came here. Like they did this for the entire year. Like, I mean, it was obvious. So that's why. But I was like, man, this is crazy. Like all of these matches so far, what I've been seeing, have just been, complete like culture shocks for wrestling. Like complete changes to what or elevations to what we have now.
I can agree with that, absolutely. And for me, like my number 3 ties straight into what he's talking about, because you can't talk about Undertaker and Shawn Michaels without talking about Undertaker and Triple H.
Yeah.
And for me, it was WrestleMania 28, the match where they're holding each other up. I believe that's the one where Shawn was the
special
guest ref.
Hell in a Cell. It was, man, what
A very iconic match.
you got Shawn Michaels just like crying in the corner. I mean, Triple H was about to kill the Undertaker. Man, what a just And then, like you said, that picture at the end, you know, it's the end of an era match. You know, that's what
It
it
was.
was called.
Man, that match was. That's what's crazy thinking about it. Freaking. Man, freaking just the shell shock level of all of these matches, just the complete. It was the end of the era. Exactly. All three of them on the ramp, all holding each other like that. Like
Taker still has that picture hanging in his house, as it was given to him as a gift from Triple H.
Well, we need to copy him, put it next to that little bookcase you got over there, because man, that picture was so good.
Yeah, it really is an awesome picture, and it's not just the picture; it's knowing the friendship, it's knowing the respect for each other, the run through the storylines, and it all ends right there on the top of the ramp, which is why this match made my list.
So what we have now is we have, Stone Cold Bret Hart, which made the Attitude Era, which made, big names like Stone Cold, The Rock, John Cena, all able to happen. Then we had, TLC, which is still, I mean, we have high level, high caliber people, Then we have we have Mankind and The Undertaker, which was a step up in just like how far we're willing to go. All of these things, in this last match we have eras of wrestling. We have that storylines that are brought into a match and make the match better with it. All of these matches are just big, huge elevations of what we have and what has become the foundation of what we have today.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And it's just really that's really awesome to see that, because I didn't even realize that while we were talking about it. To see that while we're talking about it, I'm like, wow, everything that we're talking about has had such a big impact on what we see today.
Thanks.
Now, I currently don't have the ability to scroll up in my chat, but one of the matches that Camino had talked about was from Starrcade. I believe it was Starrcade. And it was Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair.
Yes. That was his number one.
And well worthy of the number one slot, for sure.
For sure. So talking about, all of these things, bringing into something that we see today.
Good.
Something that we see today. My next match was something that we've seen very recently. I put down number 3, the Bloodline Civil War. Because
Absolutely.
I can't even, the same, not the same, but the level of buildup that they had, the buildup is different than anything we've ever seen. The Bloodline storyline is the craziest buildup to anything I've ever seen in wrestling, period, end of story. And the caliber of the Bloodline Civil War was likened to, right there, this is for Jay, was likened to our
tribal chief.
our match that we just discussed with Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, and Triple H, with just the amount of emotion brought into that match. Something that was so crazy to me personally is, now that I'm a esteemed, not your average Mark, the level of emotion that all 4 of those wrestlers were able to put out, that you could feel it. Everyone in the stadium, everyone watching could feel the emotion. It looked like Roman Reigns and Jay and Jimmy could feel the emotion.
Roman Reigns cried. Legit.
Literally.
Tears.
They knew what was going to happen. They planned that match out and still were able to do that.
That's what I love about the Bloodline, about Roman Reigns, about the Usos. They can feel the tension in the crowd, and they play off of it so well. And when they play off of it, it creates even more from the crowd, which creates even more from them. That's why this is some of the best things that are going on.
I'll say it's just so awesome to see how far Roman has come from the
From the Shield.
Yeah, the John Cena promo, suffering succotash.
Oh, gosh.
So here, just being able to play a crowd, play a microphone the way he does, it's so freaking awesome.
It is. To look back to John Cena telling him it's called a promo. If you're going to be the big dog, you got to learn how to do it.
Obviously, he learned how to do it because look at him. As Camino said, he is the Thanos of WWE.
Exactly. I mean,
He made
Friday, his promo after they showed the whole
it.
video package, he's like, my daughter's like back there, like just the pure emotion that is like given off was awesome.
Man, it's just beautiful to see and it just made me sit back and realize how amazing these wrestlers are because they know what's happening. And they're still able to convey that much emotion. It's just wow.
And Camino's just right. He is the perfect villain because he doesn't care that he's the villain.
Yep.
And just to go back, I'm going to touch on the Starrcade match that Camino had put out there. That was the hard times. He put it there in the chat. That was the hard times match, and that promo in and of itself is iconic from Dusty Rhodes. But you don't have the Cody Rhodes thing going on that you do now. You know, the kind of the hard times, all of that stuff that he's doing without Dusty having done it. So that's kind of a big deal there.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think
It's a good looking hat you have on there, by the way, son.
Bang! That's funny.
no, 100%. You know, I think I think that they should continue Cody's hard times. By the way, but
As you talked about before, for sure.
again, wrestling would not be what it is today without the Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes doing what they. You know what I mean?
We wouldn't have that like whole storyline period. Like I don't even know if they would do storylines like they have without that. Is that
No,
what?
the hard time stuff, it was big.
All right, I'm gonna go to another one because
All right, drop in your next match.
all right, this one is a personal favorite. It may not be on a lot of people's lists, but it's two of my all-time favorite wrestlers. I love the story aspect, but I also love a good technical match, and it doesn't get more technical than WrestleMania 21. Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
Shawn Michaels
Shawn
is in 3 of my spots. I mean, Shawn Michaels he's just anytime he's in the ring, it's just so good. Except for Crown Jewel 2018 or whatever, that was
Yeah.
terrible. But even then,
We're going to talk about that.
it wasn't even Shawn that was bad. It was everybody else. Shawn was like, man, like,
he's your number one
yeah.
wrestler, man.
but
He's in.
just a technical masterclass. And then you can't, in the build up to it, you had the whole, I'm just a sexy Kurt. Sexy Kurt.
We have Sherry out there. That's the thing about it.
Yeah, and then,
And Sherry out singing.
and then he put Sherry in an ankle lock.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Because he'll make your ankle hurt. Ankle hurt. But, they had that was all part of the build up. And then just an absolute banger of a match between the two of them. In the end,
Ladies and gentlemen, he just sang Sexy Kurt. And that's probably some of the best stuff on the internet today.
And just real quick, I'll go to my last one so we can move on. This one, it's not you're not a lot of people will know a lot about it unless you watched it. But WrestleMania 20, you had the triple threat match between Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Chris Benoit. Everything that happened outside of wrestling happened, but in the ring, that was a very emotional moment. It was, 3 of the best wrestlers at the time doing what they do, and you got the payoff you wanted. You got the amazing match, and it was great.
I was looking at where our matches fell on like people's online, and I saw like 4 or 5 different ones, and every single one of them, their top 5 had that triple threat match. Like I'm telling you, that match was crazy.
I mean, just
So-
you got Triple H in the crossface, bloody.
Yeah.
It was
Man.
So I'm looking over at the chat, and Camino's got on there Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair whenever he retired him. That's actually on my list as well. And that match, you talk about the emotion in a match. Shawn Michaels standing off in the corner looking at Ric Flair saying, "I'm sorry and I love you," before he gives him that super kick.
Dude.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
If this was in a like emotional moment list, I would have had that there.
100%. That might have been number
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
That was crazy.
I just at that point in time, Ric Flair was not his greatest in the ring, so that's why it didn't make.
But the
sense.
storyline, and this is something Rick has said before, the storyline that came to that match and through that match carried what Rick couldn't do physically.
Yeah,
100%.
Because it's like Rick has told us before, you could do 20 minutes of drop toe holds if the story's right.
Exactly. So moving from a completely emotional match to a match almost devoid of emotion would be, for me, another recent-ish from my time, The Shield and the Wyatt family. Back when the Wyatt family was completely over and the Shield was completely over as heels. Like, I mean, for that match, for me, it was the star of the PG-ish era before COVID, the pre-COVID PG era, the modern era for me. It was the peak of that. I mean, if for promos, if we did promos, the reason I thought of this match would be because the Shield breaking up was one of the craziest things ever for me.
The Seth Rollins turn.
Watching it. I was watching it happen. I was like, so then I was thinking about it. I was like, man, the Shield had some crazy matches, and that was just one that shot out to me. I mean, all 6 of those guys are not really a big emotion people, but they completely on the complete other spectrum from the match we just talked about. They're like lack of like real emotion into it because the Shield was we're the Shield, and the Wyatt family was the Wyatt family. No one knows anything about us. Like all of that was completely made up for with just straight match quality, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
No, I respect that. That's a good pick.
And then my last one is just a match-ish, but it can't be not in the Hall of Fame. I got to say Vince McMahon against Stone Cold. I mean, come on.
Now, are we talking like Valentine's Day Massacre, Stone Cold and Vince?
Yeah. Yes, obviously. What?
God, that's the only match you could talk about. I mean, I guess
There were several great ones.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but not that one.
Yeah. I mean, just for me, I mean, it's not the apex of matches like we've talked about with everything else. It wasn't just the top tier of wrestling, but it's Vince McMahon and Stone Cold. I mean, that is it. That's the big man upstairs and the people's man going at it with the craziest stuff none of us could have thought of.
who hasn't at some point in their career wanted to throw their boss in a ring and just beat the hell out of him?
Yeah, who in their entire life has not once wanted to spray their boss down with a beer truck?
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly.
I'm saying.
Oh man.
I'm going to throw out there, Mike in the chat said, we come up with different topics and stuff for our show. We should do a future topic of top promos of all time. That is in the works, Mike, and we are going to do that.
Yeah,
Cameron says he wants to do that daily, wants to beat up his
you want
boss.
to beat him up or you want to spray him with a beer truck? Which one?
Yes.
Both, obviously.
Both.
The right answer.
All right, so I'm going to throw my last match out there, and it's not one that I think everyone would throw in contention for Hall of Fame, but I thought it was great, and that was WrestleMania 31, Randy Orton and Seth Rollins.
Okay.
Just because
That's the curb stomp
Yeah.
RKO one.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's part of the reason why is just the sheer athleticism between the both of them, for one, and then the that move, the going for a curb stomp and dropping it right into the RKO. Randy Orton has said when that happened, he almost forgot to pin him. He was so excited and going off about the fact they pulled it off. He almost forgot to pin Seth Rollins.
I would say you saw it. I mean, did it, got up, and was running around the ring for 3 seconds and was like,
He was like,
"Oh crap!"
Oh,
I love how Camino said it, the flying curb RKO.
Yeah,
the flying curve RKO.
Seth got
Yes.
like 12
He was
in the air. He
up
got
there, dude.
So Cameron says actually what he's wanting to do with his boss is run him over with the beer truck.
That's
So-
what I do.
Yeah, I mean, you have the beer at least at that point.
At that point, you can run him over and drink a beer and you're good.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, as Camino said, give me a hell yeah. Oh, man. Funny stuff.
All right, well, we're sitting at 9:25. This has been a great list of matches, and I think every last one of them is Hall of Fame worthy. I want to,
And what Camino said, I really appreciate you dropping your list for us. Those were some really good takes.
And I
Yeah.
don't want to skip over Cyraphs.
Sarah. You mess with me when you do that.
no, Seraph is right. Stone Cold and The Rock at WrestleMania X7. That was a culmination of a whole lot of storytelling right there.
It's just crazy. That was the Vince coming. That was the heel turn, right? That was Stone Cold.
Yeah.
That was Vince bringing out the chair and all that.
Oh
I'm
my
pretty sure.
gosh.
Yeah, that was Vince. Yeah, that was the that.
That was crazy.
I-
Yes, he was like, I'll win with by any means necessary. And then Vince
Yes,
came out. I was
yeah.
like, what?
Yeah, no, that was a good one.
No, it was a great match. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get final thoughts. Bruce, lay it on us.
I got to say that this week in wrestling was some pretty good stuff. I love what they've done with the Bloodline for WrestleMania, or for the Bloodline Civil War.
Is that
Money in the
Malone?
Bank. for Money in the Bank, they were just so freaking good. Another thought I have is, of course, Camino. I really appreciate how active you were in the chat, man. It's really nice to have someone else who, as we said, is not your average mark, just like J-Reb, who is actually not your average mark. So we got another subscription.
Subscribe.
Appreciate it, brother. But not being an average mark from Camino, I really appreciate that, man.
Mike always appreciates you, big dog.
Always. And Rick, they came earlier.
Happy to see the rooster out and about.
Yeah, just all 8 of y'all that are in the chat right now, I really appreciate y'all staying till the end here. So I really appreciate y'all coming out, watching us, listening to it. I think that we all had a phenomenal list, and man, wrestling is just amazing.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Little Guapo,
just
lay it on us, son.
the conversations we're able to have, the nostalgia, it makes it so much better whenever you guys in the chat throw your stuff out there. You give us stuff to bounce off of, and it makes everything more enjoyable, and we appreciate that. And I don't know about the whole Amazon Prime thing.
Yeah, that's a guapo.
Yeah, that is a boss man
Or
question.
the guy.
I will look into that for you, Mike, and I will let you know.
Yeah, but again, we appreciate all of you guys, and headlocks and heat waves next week. 5 episodes.
5 episodes, baby.
So tune in. We're gonna have somebody on every week. Be ready for it.
At least come out to come see. You don't want to see us 5 times. At least
And
come
we
out
have
to
to-
see all the different people.
We have to remind them all. It's in the stream that Bruce said 5 times. You can come watch all these ugly mugs and me. So everybody that we have, we'll tell Bloodlust that he called them ugly.
Whoa.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
Like, that's what he said.
I mean, I can let you take care of Bloodlust. I'll let Los Crudos know.
Yeah.
And
All right, so
and he's going to be there.
podcast without me in there.
All right. Well, as for me, my final thought, man, I love that we get to do this. I love that we're in a spot where we can do this. Of course, I love doing it with my sons. I love the fact that we've got all these people in the chat, and I thank every last one of you for being there. Camino, thanks for the idea. Thanks for the source material for our discussion tonight.
Yeah, you're a real one, Camino.
Cameron, love having you here, brother. Thanks for the subscription. Hope you're here every night. We want to see you. Want to remind everybody, as Little Guapo said, 5 times next week. We're on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all the way through.
And Camino, I hope you're talking about like him and
Oh, yeah,
his
dude.
left hand and his right hand, because I'm not doing nothing to Bloodlet. That's all him.
Dude,
Him and the mouse in his pocket.
dreams of being Hardy Boys, but we're the Russell Boys.
Did you not see him put the clown through the table?
And he still hasn't come back to wrestling. So.
I don't want to be the clown on the table.
Good point. Solid point. That man has not stepped into the squared circle since then. So.
But again, just thank you to everybody. Make sure you go to Headlocks and Heat Waves. It's going to be a great show. If you haven't been to an independent wrestling show, this is the one. If you missed Hot Blooded, then
You're missing something amazing.
if you missed Hot Blooded, go to YouTube right now. As soon as we're done, go to YouTube and type in BCW Hot Blooded and watch the magic that the guy put together. And
Mike, I cannot have you on this too. You have to take care of him and Scar before you start with me.
that's just remember, you said the things, and now you get to find out that her fists are rated E for everyone. With all of that, thank you to everybody. Thank you to the guy for making it happen. And we are not your average Mark. We're going to see you Monday night with Paula Fate. Until then, we love y'all.
Yeah.